exclusive certified Piedmontese beef and assorted sausages, plus other quality meats, including pork, chicken, and a wide range of the freshest seafood. Plus, every Friday from 11 to 2, the Mercado serves up the best lunch in town on their Friday Feast menu. Stop in at the Mercado today at 84th and Havelock or visit their website at cpmercado.com to see current deals.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Unearth the secret to long-lasting tires at Tread's Central Tire Pros, a league apart in commitment, service, and expertise. This isn't just about rubber meeting the road, but trust, safety, and surety converging in perfect harmony. This is where expectations are exceeded every time. Make your appointment today at Tread Central Tire Pros, just south of Portland on Highway 77, or visit our website to explore our services. Remember, when it comes to tires, choose Tread Central Tire Pros because we tread differently.
Midwest Bank is proud to be your local community bank right here in Lincoln. This is Kim with Midwest Bank. We know there is more to your business than numbers and spreadsheets. For us at Midwest Bank, the people who make up a business matter most. We believe in getting to know you and your business and providing customized banking solutions that help protect your business and help it grow. Schedule a free consultation with us today. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank. Learn more at midwest.bank. Member FDIC.
You can get diesel anywhere, but what about atomic diesel? That comes from Stern. Atomic Diesel is your solution to all your cold weather problems. Prevent clogged fuel filters, increase your fuel economy, and save money with Atomic Diesel. Contact Roger at Stern today by calling 1-800-477-2744 to see how Atomic Diesel and the rest of their line of fuels and lubricants can keep your operation running at max capacity.
Welcome in to the Corner 3. Taking you around the arc of college basketball. From the NAAC to the Pac-12, the WCC to the SWAC. We cover it all now on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
Welcome in. A happy Friday evening to you and yours. Thank you for making the Corner 3 a part of your pre-weekend plans. Shoot, call it the weekend. We're just a handful of hours away from Saturday anyways. Work week is done, I hope, for most of you. If you are at work and listening to the show, hopefully I'm helping you get through the end of your work week as well. 402-464-5685 if you have any comments, any questions on the SEC. I posted a Twitter poll at Austin_Oerman, as you see in the scroll below me. Give me a follow there for a lot of Corner 3 related content for sure. Posted a Twitter poll asking which conference y'all would like me to go over and go through next. We did the Big Ten last week. Y'all voted pretty overwhelmingly for the SEC. I'll post another Twitter poll here soon. The other three options moving forward for next week will be the Big East, the Big 12, and the ACC. No, I am not ignoring the smaller mid-major schools. Don't worry. I will get to those. I have a whole episode dedicated to mid-majors in the works. It's not just going to be one conference. We're not going bit by bit through the mid-major conferences. I'll give you the highlights. That'll be in 4 weeks from today, I would presume. But after tonight's show or sometime over the weekend, I will put out one of those same tweets asking if you would like to hear about the Big East, the Big 12, or the ACC. Next, it's up to y'all. I have no preference in the order in which these get done. Starting with the Big Ten, I think made a lot of sense to me. You guys chose the SEC, so that's where we're going tonight. Overview of the show. First segment, we'll go over the key players you need to know in the SEC. And then in the second segment of the show, the teams. Some breakdowns, what you need to know, who I think is going to finish where, which teams are going to finish where. A lot of categories to get to for the players. I'll give you Player of the Year candidates, impactful transfers in and out, a few impactful freshmen, some key returners, and X factors for their teams that I think can really make or break not just the SEC conference race, but maybe even some March hopes and dreams for some of these teams. Then when we get to the teams, I'll give you my top 3 teams. The top 3 teams I think could win the conference. 2 teams that I think will be playing night 1 in the SEC tournament. 3 teams stuck in the middle, 3 dark horses, 3 teams on the way down, and then a couple teams with questions. The numbers might not line up perfectly. We do, of course, have an 18-team Big Ten, but only a 16-team Southeastern Conference. Let's just go over last year's standings first. Had that tab up, and then it closed. So give me just a moment to get that pulled back up here. So last year, 2023 SEC Men's Basketball Conference, it was Alabama who ended up winning the conference with a 16-2 overall record. Texas A&M finished second. They were the preseason pick to win the league. Wade Taylor IV, Buzz Williams at the head of that team. Kentucky finished third. Logjam in the middle. Missouri, Tennessee, and Vandy all finished with an 11-7 record. Auburn, the last team, over 500 at 10-8. Bottom of the conference was LSU and Ole Miss. South Carolina at 4-14. So very interesting standings from the SEC last year, although I believe, now that I think about it, South Carolina was not that bad. I might have had the previous years. Let's see if I can actually find the standings, because South Carolina did not go 4-14 in conference play. No, here we go. All right, I was a year behind. It was Missouri and Vandy. Missouri went winless in the SEC last year, 0-18. Vandy 4-14. Ole Miss, Georgia, Arkansas at the bottom. It was Tennessee that won the SEC last year with a 14-4 conference record. Auburn and South Carolina, Kentucky and Alabama all went 13-5 as well. That sounds more like it. That South Carolina tidbit threw me. That's an NCAA tournament team. There's no way they went 4-14 in conference play. That's one of the teams that I have some questions about. A&M, again, the preseason pick to win the league last year. 9-9 is all they went. We'll get into the teams here in just a little bit. Let's dive into the players first and foremost, though, with the Player of the Year candidates. One guy that Nebraska fans are familiar with that cooked Nebraska in the NCAA tournament last year, Wade Taylor IV. Not the biggest guy, not a consistent shooter. He went off from long range against Nebraska, shot well above the 33% that he typically shoots from 3 in the NCAA tournament game. 2-time All-SEC player, 2-time All-SEC tournament player. For his career, averages 14 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds per game. Last year, he ticked all of those numbers up. 19 points, 4 assists, and 3.5 rebounds per game. Only 37% shooter overall, 33% from 3, but 85% at the free throw line. Wade Taylor IV, absolute dynamo. He will put up numbers in the system, and I just don't think A&M has a whole lot of offensive talent around him. Their MO last year was, hey, Wade Taylor, try to go get us a shot, and we'll rebound it if you miss. That's going to be the MO for them again this year. I really think it's Wade Taylor's team, and I think he can put up the numbers to make a good run at SEC Player of the Year. I don't think I would pick him to win SEC Player of the Year, though. Dalton Knecht won it last year from Tennessee. The guy that's my preseason pick to win SEC Men's Player of the Year, Mark Sears. Transfers to Alabama from Ohio, spends 2 years in Athens before heading down to Tuscaloosa. He had a stay or go decision. He elects to return to Alabama for a 3rd year. Consensus All-American last year, has been All-SEC both years in the league. He went darn near 50, 40, 90 last year. 51% shooter from 2, 44% from 3 on decently high volume, and 86% at the free throw line, average 22, 4, and 4. Mark Sears is a stud. He and Wade Taylor aren't that different size-wise. Taylor's 6 foot 185. Sears is 6'1", 185. But Taylor seems more string bean. He seems a little bit more slight, muscular enough to make it work. Sears is a bowling ball. He's kind of in the Jalen Brunson mold, except he was a better shooter from 3 in college, doing more off the dribble in a higher pace system. Mark Sears is an absolute stud. He is going to be an All-American this year, barring incident. And without Dalton Knecht for Tennessee last year, Mark Sears, even with him, had a legitimate case for SEC Player of the Year. And that brings me to my dark horse for SEC Player of the Year, a guy that I hope you guys get around to watching more of. Matthew Morrell. All SEC caliber player last year for an Ole Miss team that wasn't great, wasn't terrible, a top 50 recruit in the 2020 class. For his career, averages 12, 3, and 2. Last year, he ticked all those up to 16, 3.5, and 2.5. He is a bucket getter for Chris Beard at Ole Miss. Has a flair for the dramatic to some degree. Knockdown three-point shooter, decent free throw shooter. He's a guy that is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. I don't know if he should be an initiator, maybe as much as he was last year, but Matt Morrell is one of the best play finishers in the SEC conference. 6'4", 200-pound guard, strong enough to get downhill, quick enough to handle on the perimeter, got a good handle on him as well. Didn't turn the ball over all that much, despite the high usage rate. Less than 2 turnovers per game, again, with over 2.5 assists per game. I'm a big Matt Morrell guy. I'm not sure about the team construction at Ole Miss, but I think if Chris Beard, still the head coach at Ole Miss, is able to pull a top 3, top 4, maybe top 5 SEC finish out of Ole Miss, I think Matt Morrell is going to be a driving force behind that success. And I think if Mark Sears has another good year, but isn't overwhelming, if Mark Sears repeats last year and Matt Morrell takes a little bit of a step forward, I think the benefit of the doubt goes to Mark Sears, but definitely make sure you watch out for Matt Morrell and watch some Ole Miss games. We'll get into them a little bit more when we get to the team section. So again, my 3 SEC men's basketball player of the year candidates: Wade Taylor IV from Texas A&M, Mark Sears at Alabama, and Matt Morrell at Ole Miss. Let's go to the impactful transfers into the conference. Number 1 for me, Cliff Amore. This was a big loss for Rutgers, and I really think that if Cliff Amore had elected to stay in Piscataway, Rutgers would be a second weekend team. I have questions about Rutgers' front court depth, despite Harper and Bailey coming in. I think Cliff Amore is the missing piece for that team. Rutgers wasn't able to replace him. He's been a heart and soul of the program type of guy with what he's able to do. I think first and foremost on the defensive end, with how aggressively he rebounds. His timing at the rim and blocking shots is pretty good with that length and wingspan. And then he doesn't quit there, right? He doesn't admire. He runs the floor. And I think he's going to be a fantastic fit for Alabama. Alabama didn't have a guy like Cliff Amore, an enforcer down low. There's a guy that's an X factor that I think we'll get to later on. But I think Cliff Amore is I want to say change of pace, but I think he fits the pace. He will play fast. He can play fast, high motor guy. But Alabama's other posts are stretch big men, some rim protection, but Amore's a bruiser down low. I love the fit for him in Alabama. Him and Mark Sears in pick and rolls, I think is going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. Another impactful transfer in, John Calipari convinced Janelle Davis to transfer from Florida Atlantic to Arkansas. Janelle Davis was the guy that I thought had a chance to go to Michigan. He elects to stay in the South and go to Coach Cal's Arkansas Razorbacks. Janelle Davis is a stud. He was, if not the key, one of the 2 or 3 keys in getting Florida Atlantic to the Final Four just a couple of seasons ago. That's where he spent his entire career before transferring out now. He was the American Player of the Year last year, All-American Conference player, NCAA All-Region team. His numbers, 34 games played and started. He averaged 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, and he did it on incredible efficiency. 52% from 2, 41% from 3, and 86% at the free throw line. This is a well-rounded, I think primarily he's a 2 guard. He's a shooting guard. That's how he's been used. 6'4", 185, longer, lankier. Maybe not the most physical guy, but is still, a crafty finisher. Pretty good athlete, really good 3-point shooter. And he's worked on it, right? On the highest volume of his career last year, first time he attempted more than 4 threes per game, he shot the highest percentage. His free throw numbers have always indicated that there should be a good to decent 3-point shooter in him. And I think that finally bore out over these last couple of seasons for Florida Atlantic. That's a huge get for Coach Cal. And we'll get to Arkansas here in a little bit. Janelle Davis is just one of the reasons that I think Arkansas is a dark horse to win the SEC Men's Basketball Conference Tournament and the title in the regular season as well. An honorable mention transfer in is Miles Kelly. This is a guy, again, think Janelle Davis, maybe a little bit skinnier, not quite as efficient. He was a pain in Duke's keister at Georgia Tech and plenty other ACC teams as well. Scored 25 points 5 times last season for the Yellow Jackets. I understand him wanting to get out of Dodge. I think Georgia Tech really could have built around him, but I do think that Auburn got a good one. There's a lot of reasons that Auburn is one of my 3 title contenders in the SEC. Getting a 6'4", silky smooth scoring guard like Miles Kelly is a big reason why. But in terms of the most impactful transfers in, I think 2 of them reside in Knoxville, Tennessee. Darlin Stone-Dubar and Igor Milicic are guys that Rick Barnes convinced to come to Knoxville from other programs. And both of these guys were Nebraska targets. I believe Dubar and Milicic both came to Lincoln and took visits. I know Nebraska at least reached out to both of them. Dubar is a 6'6" 2-guard primarily. He can handle the ball. He was the play finisher. I believe he was at Hofstra last year is where Darlin Stone-Dubar came from. Had it pulled up at one point. Yeah, he's played 4 years in college already. He started his career at Iowa State. He was there for a year, only played in 16 games, and then he took over for Hofstra. 18 points, 7 rebounds, and assists and a half per game last year. This is a 6'6", 207-pound guard out of Charlotte. Really good finisher at the rim, 54% from 2, 40% three-point shooter, 70% free throw shooter. Turns the ball over at an adequate rate, essentially a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Not exactly what you want, but he shouldn't be asked to handle the ball nearly as much, especially not at Tennessee. So I love the fit of Darlin Stone-Dubar in Knoxville for a bit of an offensive spark. Take some load off of Zakai Ziegler's shoulders. And that's why I think a guy like Igor Milicic fascinates me as well. Neither he nor Dubar have a reputation as lockdown defenders. And that's really what Rick Barnes has built this Tennessee program around. You had Ziegler last year. You had Dalton Knecht get buckets last year. And that was really it in terms of consistent offense from Tennessee. We'll get to a guy that transferred out, but still in the conference here momentarily from them. But it's a little bit of a stylistic shift is what it feels like for Rick Barnes. He's going to trust his back line to clean up, and he's going to let his guards cook on offense. His guards and wings, that'll be. Both of those guys, Dubar and Milicic, shoot lights out from beyond three-point range. So I think what Rick Barnes is banking on is that his defensive scheme and principles will translate at a high enough level from these 2 guys that they will upgrade their offense. Any offensive upgrades that they bring will outweigh any of the defensive concerns. Tennessee has been so heavily weighted toward the defense in recent years. It's bit them come NCAA tournament time. You would argue the same maybe for Auburn to some degree in the SEC, whereas Alabama almost had the opposite problem, almost all offense and no defense. So I like what Rick Barnes did in trying to get some offense to add to his defense, just like what Nate Oates did, staying at Alabama, getting Cliff Amore to add some consistent defense to his offense. Those are the most impactful transfers in, obviously, in this day and age of college basketball. There's going to be a lot of transfers. I mean, what Kentucky had to do in the transfer portal with Coach Cal leaving and Mark Pope coming in, a lot of interesting pieces there for the Cats. Arkansas, went hard in the transfer portal. Auburn hit a few key guys for sure. But let's get to the transfers out. First off is Meechie Johnson. I talked about him last week as an impactful transfer in for the Big Ten, so I couldn't really leave him off of the impactful transfers out in the SEC. He did so much for South Carolina last year. He started his career at Ohio State before transferring down to be a Gamecock, and now he's a Buckeye again. He was the heart and soul of that South Carolina team that made it to the NCAA tournament. He was the best player on that team, really setting the stage for a guy that we'll get to here momentarily as a key returner. I'm just not as high on South Carolina because Meechie Johnson left. If he had gone to the NBA draft, okay, that's fine. You kind of expect that for a guy that played at his level. But for him to have college eligibility and leave, I get it's the day and age, but South Carolina, I think, could have even improved on last year had Michi Johnson decided to stick around. I think that's a huge loss, but it's a huge gain for Ohio State. The next two transfers out, ironically enough, both stayed in the conference. The first one wasn't supposed to, and that's Riley Kugel. Riley Kugel had a really good year for Florida last year, and at one point, he was committed to Kansas out of the transfer portal. This was a guy that was SEC All-Freshman 2 years ago, averaged 9, 4, and 2 for Florida last year. Three-point shooting, a bit of a weakness for him. He wasn't nearly as good as a sophomore as he was as a freshman. Free throw shooting numbers right about 70%, but 6'5", 200-pound guard that's good with the ball in his hands, that's really good at getting downhill in a system like Todd Golden likes to run at Florida. Riley Kugel was on the cusp of being an all-SEC player, dangerous with the ball in his hands. Well, guess what? He stays in the SEC after a very brief dalliance with Kansas. He was kind of the odd man out after some of the other transfers Kansas got, including AJ Storr. And Riley Kugel ends up at Mississippi State. I am so fascinated to see how the relationship between Riley Kugel and Josh Hubbard develops. Hubbard had to do so much for the Bulldogs last year. Kugel didn't have to do as much for Florida. Is he ready to take a leap into being the guy from Mississippi State? Well, it doesn't matter if he's ready or not. I don't think it's his team. Josh Hubbard is more established. Is Riley Kugel able to thrive off the ball as that second side creator, lead second units? Is he able to knock down spot up threes? That to me is really going to determine just how big a fit it is at Mississippi State. But I think it's a big loss. I think Kugel and Walter Clayton Jr. worked really well together at Florida. And I would have loved to have seen another year of those two paired with Will Richard in Gainesville. And we'll get to that here in just a little bit. The other impactful transfer out, I do think Tennessee is going to miss Jonas Idu, who ends up at Arkansas. I think that's a big addition for the Hogs and a pretty big loss for the Volunteers. Idu, pretty traditional power forward, averaged 11 points per game. Tennessee lost a lot. Being able to have a consistent post presence like Jonas Idu, who can play that traditional power forward, stretch the floor in case of emergency, not necessarily what you're banking on him for, but having him around, I think, would have gone a long way. Big physical guy. He's listed at 6'11", 230. So he played some center. I think he's probably best at the power forward position. 52% from three, 11 and 7, his fair share of double-doubles last year. I think that's going to end up being a decent size loss in the middle for Tennessee. Let's move on to the impactful freshmen. I think these are the three players that it's going to come down to for the SEC freshman of the year. First off, Darian Reed at Alabama. You could have picked any of the four guys really for Alabama in their recruiting class, all 4 stars or better. I think Darian Reed is going to fill a hole, though. I think he's going to walk onto campus and be the starting small forward. I think he plays the 3 for them. Really good athletically. Could use some work on the jump shot, but who couldn't? But I think Darian Reed's going to be a stud for Bama. It wouldn't shock me, though, if the guys that get more votes are guys that have the ball in their hands a little bit more. First off is Trey Johnson, or not Trey Johnson. Yeah, it is Trey Johnson. Sorry, yeah, not Trey Mitchell, which is where my head was at, but Trey Johnson, a player for Texas. He was the headliner of this class for Rodney Terry. Just a 3-man class. Yeah, Trey Johnson, number 1 overall player in Missouri out of Link Academy. Number 2 overall shooting guard, 6th rated recruit nationally. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton, especially with Tyrese Hunter transferring out. I think Trey Johnson is going to be the go-to guy for Texas by the time conference play rolls around. I think Texas fans, despite bringing in a guy like Jordan Pope, Tremont Mark, even Arthur Kaluma, I think Trey Johnson's that dude. He's athletic. He can shoot it a little bit. He can handle it. I think Rodney Terry is going to build this team around Trey Johnson. I'm pretty high on him. The other SEC freshman of the year candidate is a little bit under the radar because of where I think this team is going to finish. And that's Georgia's Asa Newell, rated a little bit lower than Trey Johnson was 5th best player in the state of Florida, 4th ranked power forward, 19th overall player. 6'9", 205. Georgia doesn't have a lot of that on their roster. I think Asa Newell is going to be asked to finish a lot of plays. You tie in a guy like Tyron Lawrence transferring in from Vandy, Deshane Montgomery transferring in as well. We'll see how those guys translate to Mike White's system. I think Asa Newell's pretty plug and play. There have been good reviews for him this summer, and I'm excited to see what it is Mike White does with him and how he uses him. I need to learn a little bit more about his game, but if you tell me Georgia's getting a 5-star player out of the state of Florida, I'm probably going to bank on him to be pretty darn good. All right, key returners in the SEC. And again, don't forget, if you have any thoughts, you can let me know at 402-464-5685. This is the Corner 3. I'm Austin Oerman. No particular order here. I think all of these guys are pretty key for their teams. First of all, Johnny Broome at Auburn. This was a big get for them out of the transfer portal before last season. Slightly undersized when it comes to the center position, but he is a menace down low. Johnny Broome is a stud at clearing the glass, walking double-double, averaged 17 points and 9 rebounds for Auburn last year. SEC tournament MVP, 2-time All-SEC player, SEC All-Defense team. He's a stud. He averaged 14 and 8 on 55% shooting his first year at Auburn, and then last year again, 17 points and 9 rebounds per game. Even shot 35% from 3 on low volume. He's 6'10", 240 pounds, good athlete that transferred in from Morehead State. He is absolutely a lob threat. He is a deterrent at the rim, and I think he's the linchpin for an Auburn team that we'll talk about more here in just a minute. I'm excited to see year 3 of Johnny Broome in the SEC. He's another kind of dark horse player of the year candidate. But I think the guards are just going to dominate these headlines a little bit. If Auburn wins the conference, though, Johnny Broome's probably your SEC player of the year. I think Colin Murray Boyles of South Carolina is a reason that Gamecock fans should be optimistic. Keeping Lamont Paris around was huge. Colin Murray Boyles did not shoot threes last year, took less than half an attempt per game, but Colin Murray Boyles is a wrecking ball. He is absolutely built. 6'7", 230, all muscle, top 100 guy in the 2023 class, shot 60%. Again, pretty much primarily from 2, and hit about 2 out of every 3 free throws. Only played in 28 games last year, started 19 of them, but he really came on as the year progressed, and you see videos of him during the offseason. The shot looks better. Now, will it translate to live action? That is always the question. But this is a guy that South Carolina was worried could go to the NBA draft as a bit of a project. I think keeping Michi Johnson around to shoulder some of the load for South Carolina would have gone a long way for Colin Murray Boyles' development, but I'm still extremely high on his future. Multi-positional, game-wrecking defender when he's engaged. Again, 60% finisher, averaged 10.5 points and 6 rebounds per game as a freshman in the SEC. Colin Murray Boyles is a stud. I would be shocked if he plays for South Carolina beyond this year. Of course, you hope everything goes well for him with the health. Long wingspan, rangy defender, will block his fair share of shots for a wing, averaged a steal and a block per game last year. I don't think South Carolina is going to be nearly as good, but if they are, it's because Colin Murray Boyles took a step forward. In that same vein, Jaron Stevenson from Alabama, I think, is a key piece for the Crimson Tide as they make their first Final Four appearance in school history last year. 6'11", 210-pounder. He's a forward. He'll play a lot of power forward this year like he did last year. You might say, Austin, why are you picking a guy that averaged, less than 10 points, just over 5, and less than 3 rebounds per game at 6'11"? Well, Jaron Stevenson only started 5 games for Alabama, but he came up huge against Clemson. 19 points on 11 shots. The 3-point shot looked like it came around by the end of the year. Again, on the camp circuit, destroying fools this offseason. I think it was him that dunked on Paulo Banchero at a camp, which hurt my heart to see. But Jaron Stevenson, again, long, rangy, maybe not a hugely impactful defender yet, but the tools are certainly there. But it's his ability to do a little bit of everything on the offensive end. His ability, I think, will improve to stretch the floor for Alabama. And if it doesn't, hey, well, guess what? That's a long guy that you can run some pick and roll with and put inside. Again, I think he starts at the 4. I think with the way his jump shot is looking as well, there's a big role for him to play for Alabama. He's one of those X factor type guys that I'm pretty sure a decent sized leap is in store for. And I think it's a huge get for Alabama to keep him in school instead of, again, going based on potential to the NBA draft. That brings me to a team and a player in Missouri, and Tamar Bates, who started his career at Indiana. He's from Kansas City, attended IMG. He's a top 30 guy in the 2021 class. And he spent 2 years at Indiana, where his career never really took off. 67 games in Bloomington, only started 2 of them, only averaged 18-ish minutes per game, 5 points per game at Indiana. Pretty solid player overall, 40% shooter from 2, 35% from 3, and 88% at the free throw line. Well, year 1 at Missouri, Tamar Bates showed you why he was a top 30 player in his class. 14 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, an assist and a half per game, and a combined steal and block per game. He shot 54% from 2, 39% from 3, and 93% at the free throw line. I think Missouri needs a little bit more around Tamar Bates. He's 6'5", 190 pounds, tall, lanky, skinny, bucket getter. I don't fully understand Missouri's offseason. I'd be curious to learn more about Dennis Gates and the team, who we'll get into here in just a little bit. But Tamar Bates is a stud. I think he's an all SEC caliber player. Even if I don't think Missouri is going to be very good, I think if he can get to the 15, 16 points per game range, become a more consistently impactful rebounder and defender, Tamar Bates is already a borderline all SEC player. I think there's an all SEC guy in that 6'5", 190 pound frame. That brings us to the last category for the players here. Grant Nelson, Cam Carter, and Arthur Kaluma are the 3 X factors for their respective teams. We'll start with Cam Carter, bucket getter from Kansas State. Nebraska saw him not wildly efficient. I don't know exactly what it was Will Wade saw in him. I don't think LSU is going to be very good. But if LSU surprises people, it's because Cam Carter was ready to step into a bigger role. He thrived in it, and he carried SEC by getting a lot of buckets. Grant Nelson is an X factor because when he played well in the NCAA tournament, Alabama won. That's how it worked. Grant Nelson was a huge factor in the win over North Carolina, stepped up in moments against Clemson as well. Grant Nelson, what he can do at over 7 feet tall, a bit of a string bean. He can stretch the floor credibly, not an incredibly consistent shooter, but good enough that guys have to step out and guard him. I think there will be lineups that Alabama plays Grant Nelson at the 4 and Cliff Amori at the 5. There will be lineups like last year where Grant Nelson is the only, big man on the floor. Maybe he'll share some time with Jaron Stevenson as well. If Grant Nelson can shoot 34, 35% from 3 and provide even more rim protection than he did last year, especially when Amori sits, that's going to be big for Alabama's defense. If Grant Nelson doesn't capitalize on the momentum, the growth, the confidence from the NCAA tournament and is the same player, I don't know if Alabama is going to completely live up to the top 5 hype and find its way to back-to-back Final Fours. And then I get to Arthur Kaluma. This is a guy that Nebraska fans are more familiar with from his time at Creighton. Good player, has never really taken the leap to great. Texas won't be built around him. Again, I think that Trey Johnson is the guy Texas is building around, Tremont Mark in that mix as well. But Arthur Kaluma, if he locks in as a 3-and-D guy, can impact the SEC title race. There's a lot of talent at Texas. A lot of talent being accumulated and acquired in Austin. Arthur Kaluma has never really lived up to the billing that he had as one of the best recruits in Creighton history. And don't get me wrong, I'm fine with that. Like, it's Creighton. If guys want to not exceed expectations, if they want to underperform, that is more than fine by me. I still think Arthur Kaluma has the size, the frame, 6'7", pretty built player to be an impact guy. Free throw shooting numbers, solid to okay. 3-point numbers, not what you want out of a 3-and-D wing. Never really been his game. Streaky shooter, I would say. Good player in there. I don't know if he's lived up to his recruiting ranking. If he does, Texas can win the conference. If he's the same player he's been and he takes the back seat, I think Texas loses a lot of potential versatility that a guy like Arthur Kaluma brings to the table. Very curious to see how the change of scenery, again, works for him, right? Kaluma was at Creighton, then at Kansas State, and now he makes the jump down to Austin, Texas. A really intriguing player, really intriguing career thus far. I'm curious to see how the third school goes for Arthur Kaluma. That'll wrap up our section on the players here on the Corner 3. When we get back, we'll go through the teams. My picks to win the conference, teams in the middle, some dark horses, teams that are trending down, and teams that have questions. All that and more still ahead here on the Corner 3.
Where will your path take you, traveler? To seek fortune in a new career? Or on a journey to distant lands for a well-deserved vacation? Wherever you go, one distraction could spell disaster. You can change your fate, adventurer. Don't drive distracted. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Are you ready to join a family-owned local company that values innovation, integrity, and excellence? Look no further than Lincoln Industries. They're hiring for first and third shift production roles, as well as multiple engineering and sales positions. Whether you're an engineer ready to design groundbreaking solutions or a sales professional eager to connect with clients, they've got a place for you. Come join their family. Visit www.lincolnindustries.com for more information.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
The 2024 Nebraska football season is here, and we need you to be a part of the Sea of Red Memorial Stadium this fall. A limited number of Husker football single-game tickets are on sale now and are only available while supplies last. Don't miss out on any of the action this season by getting yours before it's too late. To purchase your Husker football single-game tickets, visit huskers.com/tickets. Go Big Red.
Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports is quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And it's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
Hey guys, it's your girl Jordan from Sartor Heyman Jewelers. Have an anniversary coming up? I've got you covered. Celebrate your love with the timeless elegance of jewelry. This anniversary, give the gift of sapphires, emeralds, rubies, or gold. Find the perfect piece that reflects the beauty and depth of your commitment. Whether it's your first anniversary or your 50th, surprise your loved one with a gem as beautiful and rare as she is. Until next time, this is Jordan at Sartor Heyman Jewelry. Happy shopping, guys.
Hey Husker Nation, this is Todd Euler, two-time national champion, here to talk to you about Window World Lincoln. At Window World, we specialize in replacement windows, doors, siding, and roofing. Whether you're looking to enhance the beauty of your home or increase its energy efficiency, we've got you covered. And here's the best part. We offer the best for less. Our team is dedicated to providing top quality products and exceptional service at affordable prices. We want to earn your business and make your home improvement dreams a reality. So why wait? Contact Window World Lincoln today at 464-7313 or visit our website at WindowWorldLincoln.com. Window World Lincoln, where quality meets affordability.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstoRats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
I'm softball player Jordy Ball, and I'm proud of my Nebraska roots, and I'm proud to be back home. And at Midwest Bank, they're proud to be your local community bank. They believe in family first, taking initiative, showing integrity, and rolling up their sleeves to support their local communities. They treat everyone like family, no matter where you're from. Whether you walk into a branch in York, Lincoln, Norfolk, or Pierce, you know you're going to be welcomed with a smile. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank.
Rain, snow, or shine, John Henry's is here to keep your home's plumbing systems working properly no matter what kind of weather Nebraska throws at us. From unclogging toilets and drains to installing new water heaters and water treatment systems, John Henry's is your plumbing expert in the Lincoln and Omaha communities. Visit us at calljh.com or call John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air,
and Electrical.
Explain to me again why we're sleeping on the ground.
Because we're thramping. Thrift camping. It's saving us money and getting us closer to nature.
But we don't need to thramp. I just combined our home and auto insurance with our State Farm agent, so we have a rate that fits our budget.
All right. Do you think our agent can bring us an air mattress?
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
Individual premiums and budgets will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you don't just get a great workout, you get a great perk out because your membership is packed with perks. For $1 down and $24.99 a month, you'll get perks like access to any of our 2,400 clean and spacious locations. Bring your friend anytime and both work out with tons of equipment that'll give you that big fitness energy. Relax in the Black Card spa and more. Work out and perk out with the PF Black Card. Join for just $1 down and $24.99 a month. Hurry,
This deal ends soon.
see Home Club for details.
Back to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
Welcome back into the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. I am your host, Austin Oerman. Drop a follow at Austin_Oerman on Twitter. I've got the site pulled up all show long in case you've got comments or questions. Same thing for our text line at 402-464-5685. We just went over some players to watch, some players to know in the SEC. We're going over the teams now. Mention some of my champs. We'll also go over some teams I think will be at the bottom, some teams stuck in the middle, dark horses, teams trending down, and teams with questions. Let's start with the champs. Who I think the most likely champions are. It's Bama, it's Auburn, and it's Tennessee. Crimson Tide built a roster that is all about pace and space. You bring Mark Sears back. That's huge. You have the top recruiting class for my money in the SEC conference with the freshmen. Some interesting guys out of the portal, including Chris Amore. You retain Latrell Wright-Sell Jr. and Grant Nelson. I don't know why you would pick against Alabama right now, unless you go down the road to Auburn. Really fascinating roster for the Tigers and Bruce Pearl. You know they're going to defend. They lose Aiden Holloway and KD Johnson, who were both solid for them. They bring back, like I said before, Johnny Broome, Chad Baker-Mazara as an interesting role guy, and I love their transfer class. JP Pegues, he was the one that hit the buzzer beater 3 for Furman to knock off Virginia in the NCAA tournament. And you had Miles Kelly, 14 points per game, 3-level scorer from Georgia Tech. If you tell me that Auburn runs out a lineup of Pegues, Kelly, Baker-Mazara, Broome, and fill in the blank, that's tough to beat. I think that's more offense than the Tigers have had recently, more consistent offense. And maybe the defense takes a slight step back, but that's a deep team. That's a fantastic closing lineup that Auburn can throw out there. And I think they're going to be a tough out again. And then we get to Tennessee. Last year's champs lose the SEC Player of the Year in Dalton Connect. Jonas Idu transfers out. Same with Josiah Jordan-James. He's gone. Santiago Vescovi, all guys that have played a big part in Tennessee being a somewhat consistent second weekend team. But you get point guard Zakai Ziegler back. He's dealt with some injuries, but he's a fantastic player. Undersized, but can get anywhere he wants to off the dribble, can score from all three levels. You get Jemima Shack back. Is there a leap in him? Cameron Carr is a guy out of Link Academy, Eden Prairie, Missouri as well. Curious to see if there's anything in him. He's 6'5", 190 pounds, good sized kid. And then the transfer class, I think, is one of the best in the country. Chaz Lanier, 20-point per game scorer at North Florida. Dubar and Milicic that we talked about before. And the reason that I think I'm higher on Tennessee than I was going into this project, Felix Okpara, a name Big Ten basketball fans might be familiar with. He was a center for Ohio State. I didn't realize he blocked 80 shots. He was a true deterrent at the rim for Ohio State last year. I didn't realize that. Because Tennessee got a rim protector, I think he's going to clean up a lot at the rim. I think he's legit. His size is there. His timing is there. Not going to be great out on the perimeter, but if Tennessee can be physical, fight over screens, and funnel to him, I think he can be a difference maker for Tennessee and have a breakout year. So Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee are the teams that I view as the 3 title favorites. Who could challenge them? I've got another list of 3 teams. Texas, Arkansas, and Kentucky. Lots going on there. I touched on Texas quite a bit already since I'm really close to them. Let's just go over here. Max Asmus, gone. Dylan Disu, gone. Tyrese Hunter, out. Dylan Mitchell, out. Brock Cunningham, gone. That's a lot of key players from Texas last year. But again, Trey Johnson comes in. That's the number 5 overall player in the ESPN 100. Nick Cody, the number 76 player. In a really interesting transfer class, Jordan Pope, who put up some numbers against Nebraska for Oregon State at the Pentagon. Jordan Pope's a really good player, buried on an atrocious Oregon State team. Is he able to spread his wings anymore at Texas? Tremont Mark, really important piece for Arkansas last year, averaged 16 points per game. He's out of Fayetteville going to Austin. And then we talked about Arthur Kaluma. You add that to Caden Shedrick and Trey Johnson. Man, I kind of like Texas's top-end talent. I like what they have cooking. Does it all tie together? Is Rodney Terry the right coach? I'm not fully sold on that. Rodney Terry's fine. He doesn't necessarily move the needle for me. So I get some real Indiana vibes from Texas. If Terry's the right coach and pulls all the talent together, Texas can hang with anyone. I'm just not sure it's going to happen. Arkansas is a dark horse for me because this feels so incredibly John Calipari. Of course, he leaves Lexington and the Kentucky Wildcats to go do his friends at the Tyson family a solid. He loses Tremont Mark, Khalif Battle, Mekhi Mitchell, and then a lot of depth pieces as well. Devontae Davis on that list as well. L. Ellis, who transferred, I believe, from Louisville to Arkansas, didn't make as much of an impact. By a fall as well. But then he goes crazy in the transfer portal. Janelle Davis that we talked about. DJ Wagner he brings with him from Kentucky. Adu Thiero, pretty solid defender. Rangy guy from Kentucky. And Big Z, Zvonimir Ivisic, unicorn. 7'2", can step out and hit the 3. Bit of a wild card, to be completely fair. But I think bringing Wagner, Thiero, and Ivisic along with him to pair with a potential All-American in Janelle Davis, man, that's a really interesting starting lineup. And then you add the recruiting class. Boogie Fland was a Kentucky commit. He's following Cal to Arkansas. Carter Knox, Kevin Knox's little brother, played for Cal at Kentucky. Number 26 overall player, joins Cal at Arkansas. Billy Richmond is a top 50 player as well. Oh, and Trevon Brazile is back. Kind of a Swiss Army knife, do-it-all type of guy. Arkansas is interesting. It just feels like the same recipe at Kentucky that hasn't gone so well for Coach Cal recently. If he's able to pull all the right strings, press all the right buttons, Arkansas could challenge at the top of the SEC. But it could be the same old, for Coach Cal, where you have all this talent, it's a solid regular season, and then you underperform like they have recently in the postseason. I don't think Cal's a postseason choker. I think that's gotten blown a little bit out of proportion with how the last couple of years have gone. But man, Coach Cal needs a run. Arkansas has been a second weekend team recently. I get why Cal made the move. I get why Arkansas made the move. I'm just not fully sold. That's why they're a dark horse, not a true contender for me. You could say a lot of the same for Kentucky in the dark horse category, more so than the contender. Mark Pope, we'll have to see what his coaching chops are. I expected more out of BYU in the NCAA tournament last year. Mark Pope's teams haven't made it maybe as far as their seed would suggest in conference tournaments and beyond. Kentucky lost a lot. Antonio Reeves, program stalwart, gone. Rob Thrillingham, NBA draft. Reed Shepard, NBA draft. Trey Mitchell, steady as she goes, gone. DJ Wagner transfers out. Justin Edwards, NBA draft. Thiero transfers out. Ivisic transfers out. Aaron Bradshaw's at Ohio State now. Ugana Onyenso is out as well. That's a lot gone. But Pope, of course, went to the transfer portal. Jackson Robinson, probably the most exciting name there, follows his coach from BYU to Lexington. Andrew Carr, really solid at Wake Forest. Wasn't the headlining guy, wasn't going to be with Hunter Salas back. Curious to see what he adds. Amari Williams, fantastic ad from Drexel. He's the rim protector in this group. Otega Owais, there's your defensive stopper. He transfers from Oklahoma. Kobe Brea was a guy that I really wanted for Duke. 40% three-point shooter plus. He's going to space the floor. Kirk Risa is interesting. He's bounced around right from Arizona to West Virginia and now to Kentucky. Lamont Butler was a part of that team in San Diego State that made it to the national championship game before ultimately falling to UConn. That's a savvy upperclassman that can put in some work. And Brandon Garrison, high upside guy from Oklahoma State. There's a lot of pieces there, but it's going to be a vastly different Kentucky team than we've seen recently. And this is the biggest job of Mark Pope's life. He's an alum coming home. How does he handle the pressure? How does he handle the stakes? How does the team gel? There's a lot going on at Kentucky. I'm not sure how it works, but you can talk me into them. Teams in the middle. First off is Missouri. I told you about Tamar Bates before. My guy through and through, Mark Mitchell, transfers in. I think that's a good get for them. I just don't know exactly what's going on for Dennis Gates at Missouri. It just kind of feels like a collection of guys. Jacob Cruz should be a good ad for them from Tennessee Martin. You get Tony Perkins from Iowa after his breakout year, and then Mark Mitchell as well. It's a pretty solid recruiting class. You have 3 4-stars, at least, and a couple 5-stars, I believe, at least 1 5-star for Missouri. I like what Dennis Gates has cooking. I just don't know if I buy it this year. Check back in a year for Missouri. They won't be bad. I just don't know what the ceiling is. Ole Miss, same way, right? I mentioned Matt Morrell before. Really trying to figure out what's going on for Chris Beard. You lose Alan Flanagan. You lose Musa Cisse, 2 really big pieces. Jamarian Sharp was supposed to be an interesting piece for them as well. But you have a lot back. Matt Morrell, Jamin Brakefield is a guy that I'm really interested in. And then you do some work in the transfer portal. You get Dre Davis to come from Seton Hall. That's a really good guard. You get Sean Padula, averaged 16 points at Virginia Tech. He'll stretch the floor for you. My issue with it is that it doesn't feel like a Chris Beard team. It doesn't feel like a high-pressure, intense defense team. Maybe Chris Beard can inject some more of that into them. I just don't think this is a Chris Beard roster as I look at it. He's a good coach. I think that, whatever you think about him and his issues off the court, they're still getting sorted out. I don't know. I have my own opinions. You have yours. It just doesn't feel like a Chris Beard roster necessarily, which is why I'm really curious to see how it ties together. And then let's just loop in the other Egg Bowl team here. Mississippi State is a team in the middle. Josh Hubbard, stud. Cameron Matthews, probably something. But the transfer portal was good to Mississippi State. Kanye Clary from Penn State, averaged 17 points a game. Riley Kugel, 9 points, could handle the ball. RJ Melendez from Georgia, and I believe he was the one at Illinois at one point as well. And then you get a top 100 player in Delquan Warren, but you lose a lot. DJ Jeffries, gone. Tolu Smith was a huge part of that team with 15 points per game, gone. Josh Hubbard's a stud. Riley Kugel's interesting. Kanye Clary, it feels like Mississippi State has a lot of backcourt and a whole lot of nothing in the front court as far as proven options go. They'll be fine. I think Hubbard, Kugel, and Clary can carry them to a middle of the pack finish. I just don't know the ceiling. Teams trending down. Y'all, I am so far out on Oklahoma. Losing Otega Owe is a huge blow for them. It just losing Javian McCollum, big blow. Milos Uzan, gone. John Hugley, gone. Yee. You get, like I said, Kobe Elvis in from Dayton, and then a whole bunch of we'll see. Getting Jeremiah Fears to commit is big for them. You get Qual Atak. He's a 4-star recruit as well. Man, it just feels to me like it's Kobe Elvis, Jeremiah Fears, and then hoping other guys' games transfer up. Duke Miles from High Point, Bryson Goodine from Fairfield, Jalen Jones from the Beach. I'm just not sold on this Oklahoma roster. Porter Moser's done more with probably less, but not in the Big 12 and not in the SEC. I don't think it's going to be a great year for Oklahoma. They'll be okay, but I think they're on the mediocre end for this coming year, which is why I have them trending down. Same sort of thing for LSU. I'm just not sold on the roster. You don't have a returning double-digit scorer. Derek Fountain is at least maybe interesting. You get Cam Carter, like I said, from Kansas State. Bailey from Richmond averaged 10. Jordan Sears, 22 at UT Martin. I think that's a good get. But again, how does the game scale up? It's really going to come down to freshmen, I think. Curtis Givens, a top 40 guy. Victorious Miller, top 50 guy. I just don't see Will Wade as a guy that loves relying on, or Will Wade's gone, of course. Matt McMahon, right? Matt McMahon, the head coach. I'm just not sold. I don't see the vision for LSU. They lost 3 double-digit scorers, proven double-digit scorers in the SEC. I just don't know what's going on down in Baton Rouge. You hope the best for Matt McMahon. I think it was a tough situation for him to walk into with Will Wade being gone, of course. I just don't see a lot in store for the Tigers this year. My other team that's trending down, South Carolina. We talked about them quite a bit before. Colin Murray Boyles is good, but losing Michi Johnson hurts. BJ Mack was really good for them. Talon Cooper transferred there from Minnesota. He played his role for them. They have a lot back, but not a lot that's fully proven. Miles Stute is at least somewhat interesting alongside Murray Boyles. Nick Pringle from Alabama in the post. Don't love it, don't hate it. I still think that retaining Lamont Paris was the best thing that South Carolina was able to do this offseason. And I hope the best for him. I hope he's able to work his magic again. I just don't think South Carolina is a tourney team 2 years in a row. A few more categories to go here on the corner 3. We got the teams with questions and the Wednesday teams for the SEC tournament. First off is Texas A&M. There's no way they can repeat last year, right? I mean, there's no way. Tyrese Radford, 17-point per game scorer, gone. Julius Marble, man in the middle, gone. And then depth is gone. You bring back Wade Taylor. You bring back Henry Coleman, who's a double-double candidate. Solomon Washington, Manny Obaseki was pretty good against Nebraska. You get Zurich Phelps from SMU to pair with Wade Taylor the fourth. I like that ad. Pharrell Payne really fits Texas A&M. Not a lot of range. Solid finisher at the rim. Really good athlete. Gobbles up rebounds. I like that for them. And then CJ Wilcher. I don't fully understand the fit for CJ at A&M. They like to play fast. They chuck a lot at the backboard. They're athletic and they rebound. CJ Wilcher is different. Not a great athlete. Okay rebounder. But I guess the bet on CJ Wilcher is that he's a 40% three-point shooter that spaces the floor for a guy like Wade Taylor, for Zurich Phelps. We'll see. I'm a little skeptical on that fit. Now, of course, I am not Buzz Williams. I don't have his coaching chops. But that was an interesting move for me, for CJ Wilcher to go down to College Station and for Buzz Williams to decide on him. The other team with questions for me is Florida. I'm a fan of the Todd Golden experience. I like how much he uses math. He's kind of pioneering the 2-for-1 and the 3-for-2 even in college basketball. Losing Zion Pullen is a big deal. He averaged 16 a game. Tyrese Samuel was good for them last year. I would have loved to have seen another year of Riley Kugel, but they have a lot back. Walter Clayton Jr. from Iona, stud. Will Richard, probably a little bit more in there. Alex Condon, interesting to me. Micah Handlogton had the bad leg injury in the NCAA tournament. He's back. Hopefully he's healthy. And then the transfer class is headlined by Elijah Martin. The other guy, along with Janelle Davis at Florida Atlantic, I think is really interesting. He averaged 13 points per game last year at FAU. You get Sam Alexis, 11-point-a-game scorer at Chattanooga. There's a lot of backcourt with Martin, with Clayton, with Richard, even Condon. There's not a lot of front court, not a lot of proven front court. Handlogton isn't Colin Castleton from a couple years ago. And he's coming off a pretty traumatic leg injury. That kind of scares me. I think Florida's going to play fast. I think Florida's going to put up points like they did last year. They were a bubble team by the end of last year. I like most of the pieces, but man, I just think the front court is a little bit too lacking for me to feel good about. And then we get to the teams that I think will ultimately be playing on the first day of the SEC tournament. First off, Georgia. Talked about Asa Newell. I think he's challenging for SEC Freshman of the Year. Georgia lost a lot. Their best transfers come from Vandy, right? In Tyron Lawrence, who averaged 14 points a game. Get RJ Godfrey, a fringe guy kind of for Clemson. And then two guys from Mount St. Mary's, Dakota LeFew and then Deshane Montgomery. They averaged 31 points combined for Mount St. Mary's last year. Mike White's a good coach. I think his seat was getting a little warm at Florida. I get why he made the jump. You know, if you can be in Kirby Smart's shadow and have some job security by just being okay at basketball, I respect the move from Mike White. I just don't know what Georgia has going for it. I don't know what to make of this Georgia team. I don't think it's as talented as it was last year. They went 20-17 overall, 6-12 in SEC play. Of course, Georgia does make the NIT, and they make a run to, I believe, the NIT Final Four. They beat Xavier, Wake Forest, and Ohio State. Wake and Ohio State on the road before, falling in the NIT Final Four by 17 points to Seton Hall. I don't think Georgia is the NIT team that makes the jump to the NCAA tournament. I just think they lost too much. I just don't love what they have going on. And then we get to Vandy. We get to the Commodores. Scrolling down to their roster here. This is another team decimated by the portal. Mark Byington is in as head coach. You lose your 2-3 leading scorers even in Ezra Mannion. You get Tyron Lawrence and then Van Allen Lubin, who I believe just ended up at North Carolina, kind of bolstering that front court. You have Jaqueline Roberts and Jordan Williams back. They combined for less than 4 points per game. And then you're banking on so many mid to low major transfers. Leading scorer in the transfer class, Jason Edwards, 19 a game at North Texas. Then Grant Huffman, 13 at Davidson. And Chris Mannon, 13 at Cornell. Interesting transfer, A.J. Hogarth. Averaged 11 at Michigan State. And Devin McLaughlin, 10 at Boston College. Those two intrigue me. Can they be a 1-2 punch that raises Vandy? I don't know. I always expected a little bit more from A.J. Hogarth. He never looked fully comfortable at Michigan State for me. If he's the lead guy for Vanderbilt and he knows he's the lead guy, I can see him taking a step forward. I don't know. I kept waiting for it at Michigan State and it never happened. Devin McLaughlin is really interesting to me. Tyler Nickel from Virginia Tech and MJ Collins as well. You get Jalen Carey from a fantastic James Madison team to come in as well. And then Alex Hemingway and Kajani Wright from Power 5 schools as well. I just don't see it all coming together. If AJ Hoggard is the bet, he never really put it all together at Michigan State. And, maybe going to Vandy with clear role definition will be good for him. But man, I just kept waiting for AJ Hoggard to put it together. He didn't do it. So I'm just out on him as the lead guy for the Commodores. That'll do it for this episode here of The Corner 3. Appreciate you tuning in here on a Friday night. As always, you can tweet at the show at Austin_Oerman. I'm around. I'm on Twitter. I'll see it. I'll respond to you. I'd love to have some dialogue with you. Don't forget, I will post a Twitter poll for the team you want to hear, or not the team, the conference you want to hear about next week, the player and team previews, Big East, Big 12, or ACC. Let me know on the text line 402-464-5685, or again on Twitter at Austin_Oerman. I should also let you know TC3 is podcasted. So if you missed the live show, you want to listen back to the live show, just search for The Corner 3, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. All the episodes are posted there. It'll be up shortly. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in to not just The Corner 3. I've been with you the last 5 hours, starting with On the Block at 2 and then Old School at 4. Flip it right back over to the radio airwaves, Royals and Reds from Cincinnati. Big series for the boys in blue. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with Ticket Weekends tomorrow. This is Austin Oerman signing off.